Okay, what's our topic of discussion today? It's the GOAT conversation, man. I've been seeing it all over the place on YouTube. Perk was getting on Stephen A. Smith, just dropping facts, because you know Stephen A. Smith is a Michael Jordan groupie. So he was just dropping facts on them about some stuff that people act like they forgot. So this GOAT debate, it been going on for a while. And quite naturally, like Michael Jordan, always been my GOAT. Like he always been the greatest to me, and I feel like Kobe Bryant was right there. And I felt like if Kobe would have went 7 for 7, he would have won against the Pistons and the Celtics. I felt like Kobe would have been over MJ. Like if he'd have went 7 for 7, because he went no more finals than MJ. He came out of his conference more times than MJ, but MJ was 6 for 6. Kobe was 5 for 7. So I thought Kobe was right down the brink. Just fell a little short. And then here come LeBron. And of course, we know how people feel about the killer instincts. They like to use words like killer instincts, which Jordan and Kobe did have a different kind of killer instinct from LeBron. But when you start saying stuff like killer instinct, then he was mentally stronger, and like that's not tangible. Like you can't fact check none of that. He just and to be quite honest, a lot of people it was a discussion that was on between Nick Wright on Fox Sports, between Nick Wright and Chris Broussard. And Chris Broussard kept saying, let's stop making the things the way you want to be. Let's just go with facts. LeBron this, LeBron that. So he threw Nick threw facts back at Chris Broussard, and he just simply asked Chris Broussard a simple question: if you're gonna talk about facts and go with statistics, stuff you can't dispute. Because he keeps saying, you going with LeBron because it's your feeling. Can we just use logic and use actual stats and facts to go with this discussion? And Nick said, okay, who do you feel like is better in the clutch in the playoffs? Whether it's game winning, whether it's fourth quarter, last minute, whatever. Who you feel is better in the clutch? Chris Broussard said Jordan. Everybody would say Jordan. You know what I'm saying? I probably would say Jordan in the clutch. You know what I'm saying? But when he did a fact check, LeBron shoot a better percentage. He hit more game-winning shots. He hit more go-ahead shots. Like just everything is better about LeBron in the clutch. But people like to push the narrative with Jordan because we didn't have YouTube back then to show every single game winner that Jordan missed and everybody talking about it all day the next day. We didn't have those didn't have YouTube. A perfect example, Shannon and Skip were debating. Skip is a Jordan groupie. He felt like and why I call people Jordan groupies, it ain't because they like Jordan and feel like Jordan is the greatest. Kobe Bryant is my favorite player in the sport all time. But I feel like LeBron is the GOAT. So, but the reason why I call them Jordan groupies is because you talk to people 10 years ago. People saying no matter what LeBron do, he'll never pass Jordan. That's a Jordan groupie. That's a groupie. If you can sit here and say that no matter what LeBron do, he can win. He can go 8 for 8 on. If he'd have won all his championships, and he'd been to the finals 10 times, he could have won all the finals that he went to. He still wouldn't be better than Jordan. Like that's a Jordan groupie. Like nothing that anybody does is ever going to be good enough to pass MJ in your opinion, regardless of if it is or if it ain't. I love Kobe to death. But I understand Kobe fell just short of Jordan. He fell just short of him. So as much as I love Kobe, I'm not going to be no Kobe groupie and just say, well, no matter what happens, Kobe better and there's nothing nobody can ever do. Like, nah, I'm not going to say that. Jordan was a little bit better and LeBron is better. But Kobe's still my favorite athlete all time. So I'm not going to sit here and go back and forth with that. But that's why I call people Jordan groupies. And a perfect example is, everybody always talk about LeBron this, LeBron that. And Shannon asked Skip this question, and I'm bringing up the sports broadcasters because you got so many delusional Jordan fans that feel like it's not a discussion, it's not even close, LeBron ain't this and that, and that's your opinion, that's fine. But if it wasn't close and if it wasn't a discussion, they wouldn't be having it on SportsCenter, Fox Sports, YouTube, professional NBA basketball players telling commentators like Stephen A., who ain't never played a fucking day in the NBA. You got professional players telling him, just like Kendrick Perkins, telling him they feel like LeBron is the GOAT. Like he played against LeBron, he played He played basketball in the league, professional basketball. Stephen A. never did. So it's that legitimate that obviously players feel like LeBron is the GOAT. I feel like LeBron is the GOAT. Shannon Sharp feel like LeBron is the GOAT. Nick Wright feel like LeBron is the GOAT. Kendrick Perkins feel like LeBron is the GOAT. Like it's Swagoo feel like LeBron. Marcus Spears feel like LeBron is the GOAT. Like Isaiah Thomas feel like LeBron is the GOAT. Larry Bird feel like LeBron is the GOAT. Bill Laimbeer feel like LeBron. It's players that play NBA that feel like LeBron is the GOAT. So it's a discussion. I don't care how you feel about Jordan. It's a discussion. Not only is it a discussion, I feel like LeBron is better. And listen, respectfully, I want to smoke with any of you that feel like it ain't a discussion. If you feel like Jordan is better, but LeBron is on that level, okay, I can understand that person. But those people saying that it's not even a discussion, Jordan is better hands down. You even got people now saying that Jordan is a better all-around player than LeBron. Like, come on, y'all. Can we be honest with this? Like, Jordan was an exceptional scorer, one of the best scorers, maybe the best scorer the game has ever seen. He averaged 30 points a game for his career. That's insane for somebody to average 30 points a game for their career. But can we get some perspective in this motherfucker? LeBron is a better rebounder. He's a better passer. And Jordan is like the scoring god to people. Scoring was like Jordan's great thing. And Jordan averaged 30 points a game. LeBron averaged 27.7, which means that even in your strongest attribute, and everybody know that LeBron is more like a hybrid of Michael Jordan and Magic, LeBron gonna make the right play. He gonna pass. Jordan is gonna shoot unless he got the pass. So even with that being said, Jordan is still only about 2.3 points a game over LeBron, which is why LeBron been past him in points, and LeBron about to be number one and pass Kareem. So from that perspective, it's just a flat out fact. You can say what you want to, you can feel how you want to feel. Like, it's not an opinion. LeBron is a better rebounder and is a better passer. That's why LeBron has always been a point forward. They call him a point forward. Nobody ever confused Jordan with a point guard or running the offense. Like, Pippen brought the ball up more than Jordan. You had B.J. Armstrong, you had Paxson, you had Steve Kerr. You had plenty of players to bring the ball up, get the offense initiated, which the triangle is kind of like a self-initiation offense to a certain extent. You don't got to have a point guard for the triangle. All those, Phil got 11 chips. He got 6 with Jordan, 5 with Kobe. Every single one of those teams on both sides never had a great point guard. So you don't need a point guard for the triangle offense. Like, that's just the bottom line. So Jordan wasn't even a main facilitator. You know what I'm saying? So we know LeBron is a better passer. He's a better offensive facilitator. He's a better floor general. He's a better leader. Even when you go back now, it's just the Jordan groupies that they feel like Jordan pissed go. Because let's just say in this day and time, because if you looked at The Last Dance, you know some of the stuff that Jordan did. Let's just say if LeBron got on the plane and told a teammate, like Jordan told Horace Grant, you had a bad game, and told you can't eat tonight, and told the people on the plane not to feed this dude. Horace Grant was trying to get at Jordan and was trying to fight him. Horace Grant talk about that as of today. Listen to what Jordan teammates say. And now everybody calling them haters. Now Scottie Pippen is a hater. Now Horace Grant is a hater. Like, everybody haters talking about Jordan. That's his teammates that's telling the truth, and they seen The Last Dance. They seen it. It was supposed to be a documentary about the Bulls championship teams. It was about Jordan. He made it a Jordan documentary. So that's Jordan. That's part of what made him the best player of his era and the GOAT before LeBron came, the second best player of all time. That arrogance of feeling like, I got it. You know what I'm saying? You need it. Kobe had the same arrogance. So I get it. But that don't change the facts. Talk to these dudes and see what they saying. Imagine if LeBron told a player he couldn't eat on a plane. One of his teammates, he had a bad game because he didn't rebound good. Imagine that. Matter of fact, when everybody talk about how tough Jordan was and how people used to fear him, first of all, nobody feared him. Like, let's just get that out of the way. Did the Knicks fear him? Lie and say yeah. So you telling me Patrick Ewing feared him? No. Anthony Mason feared him? No. Charles Oakley feared him? Fuck no. Stop it. Cut the noise out. It's nonsense. They did not fear Jordan. And if we're going to even go one step further, how did the teams from the 80s feel when they played him? The Celtics, did they fear him? The Pistons, did they fear him? The Showtime Lakers. Not the Lakers that fucking Jordan beat in 91 with Vlade Divac, where Magic Johnson was about to retire because of AIDS, and Vlade Divac was our best player. Not that Laker team, Showtime Lakers, with Perkins and James Worthy and Cooper and Byron Scott, Magic Johnson. When Magic first got that shit, Magic had Kareem on deck with him. Like that Lakers team. The one that the Bulls could not fuck with. They didn't beat that team. They beat Vlade Divac's team, man. Let's call a spade a spade. So did those teams in the 80s fear him? They used to whoop his ass every single year? Okay, I didn't think so. All right, so moving on. So Jordan and this whole fear thing, which we already know nobody feared him, is nonsense. They talk about that a lot now. Jordan punched Steve Kerr in the face at practice. Everybody was like, he didn't play. He even punched one of his teammates in the face so bad. He wanted it so bad. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Could you imagine if LeBron punched one of his small white point guard players in the face? Like, we don't even care that he white. It's not a racial thing from a racial perspective. It's more so from you can see like Jordan hitting Isaiah, swinging on Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas going to be back on his ass. And Isaiah Thomas the same height and all that as Steve Kerr. So we're not a black and white thing. It's just how you carry it. So Steve Kerr was a nice guy, still is a nice coach. So when Jordan punched Steve Kerr in the face at practice for some who knows, who cares, and everybody made it seem like it was just the toughest shit ever, that's false. Why did he punch? He told people that Horace Grant couldn't eat on the plane. Why did he punch Horace Grant in the face? Dennis Rodman went to fucking Las Vegas in the finals. Why didn't you punch Dennis Rodman in the face? Like all these motherfucking players that had issues with Jordan, well, don't matter whether it's the Oakleys, don't matter none of them. Even if we go to teammates, why didn't you never punch Dennis Rodman or Horace Grant in the face if he's so tough? You punched the smallest player on your team that was a small white point guard, which is Steve Kerr. Like that, could you imagine if LeBron did that in practice? What the fuck they would be saying on YouTube and SportsCenter the next day? Let's give this some context. Now, could you imagine? But when Jordan do it, Jordan shoot, go, he wanted it so bad. It's nonsense. It's the era that he was in. He wasn't in the YouTube camera phone era. Like, that's just point blank, period. So let's debunk that with Jordan as a teammate. Even if you go back now and look at Scottie, talk about how selfish Jordan was, how Jordan stopped him from getting contract extensions, when Jordan never spoke up for him for his contracts, because when it was time to speak up for him for his contracts, it's business. That ain't Jordan's problem. That's something people should be worried about. But when Jordan was away and they say Pippen got surgery at the end of the summer instead of the beginning of the summer, and he had a migraine, Jordan could speak up then. Jordan could talk about what he should and what he shouldn't get then. You ain't got no problem saying nothing then, but you can't speak up for your boy that helped you get all them championships. You can say what you want to. Y'all Michael Jordan groupies, I get it. Take Pippen off of that team. Not only is Jordan not winning 6, he's not winning 1. What team is he going to beat without Pippen? Like, stop it. Cut it out. But just the fact that people thought Jordan could beat them without Pippen tells you how weak the teams Jordan was playing against in the 90s was, man. It's just a fact. That just goes to tell you. If anybody think Jordan could have won without Pippen, one player, that tells you how weak the 90s is. Because if y'all feel like Jordan could have won without Pippen, my question would be, why the fuck didn't he win in the 80s? He actually got Pippen. Pippen came later, but everybody was saying he had to teach Pippen how to win, teach Pippen how to play, blase. He had Pippen, it was a lot of years he got spanked by the Celtics and the Pistons, and he had Pippen. So you telling me without Pippen in the 90s he could win? That's delusional for one, but let's just go with that perspective from the Jordan groupies. If that's true, and he couldn't win in the 80s without Pippen, then you literally telling us that the teams of the 90s versus the teams of the 80s wasn't shit. And that's my point. That's why Jordan couldn't win in the 80s. It's different teams, different times. The league was perfectly catered for Jordan to take over at that point in time. You know what I'm saying? It's just a fact. So, just offer some perspective with that, man. Instead of just jumping on Jordan and riding his coattail. Let's offer some perspective, man. Because when you look at it, and you ask me, I'm sure people got their reasons why they say. And when you ask people why is Jordan the GOAT, let me tell you what people say, and you tell me how tangible this shit is. They say because he had a killer instinct. That's not tangible. You don't like a killer instinct is not tangible. You can't account for that. You can't account the levels of a killer instinct. Like you can't say just because like Kobe could have had a more harsh and a deeper killer instinct than Jordan. You might say no, he didn't. That's your guesstimation. There's nothing tangible or fact that you can fact check that with. So that's one. His killer instinct. It's not tangible, but okay, he was good in the clutch and he had a lot of confidence. So did Kobe. So did a lot of other players, man. You know what I'm talking about? So they say that he was. They say his mental toughness. He was mentally tougher than any player. That's not tangible. How can you measure to say Jordan was mentally tougher than any player? Like, how can you measure that shit? It's not tangible. How can you say he was mentally tougher than Kobe? Like, Kobe had to deal with Phil coming, Phil leaving, Shaq leaving, coming back, winning another championship. He had to deal with the motherfucking Spurs, who also was winning championships, and in the conference finals damn near every year against them. He had to deal with that type of adversity out that motherfucker. Magic Johnson had to deal with coming in, playing against the Celtics, getting their ass whooped. They called him Tragic Johnson the whole offseason. He said he didn't even want to show his face. So he had to come back and beat the Celtics and win them a chip and win a couple after that type of adversity. Like, now if you want to say Jordan went through adversities in the 80s with getting his ass whipped and finally in 1991 beating the Detroit Pistons and making that breakthrough and beating them in 7 games, even though everybody always say Jordan didn't need 7 games. He never needed 7 games. Okay, the Pistons, he beat them in 7, right? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. The year before that, they played the Pistons. The Pistons beat them in 7, right? Because I know Max Kellerman, another Jordan groupie. I wouldn't call Max a Jordan groupie. He's just a huge Jordan fan. Max said he's not going to be one to say nobody can never, that LeBron can never pass Jordan. He said that probably 2 years ago. It can happen. He feel like Jordan is still the GOAT, but he feel like it can happen. So for that, Max is not a groupie. He's just a Jordan lover, which is cool. I'm a Kobe lover, so I get it. But Max said the year before they beat the Pistons in '91, when they lost to them in '90, and the Pistons won the title, Max said the only reason the Pistons won is because Scottie Pippen had a migraine. And that's why the Pistons won in Game 7. So, but y'all always say Jordan don't need 7 games. So if Jordan don't need 7 games, he's so great, he never needed 7 games. And you got 6 other games where Pippen was perfectly fine. Why did you lose? Why did you lose? I can tell you why you lost. Because them teams of the 80s, the Pistons, the Celtics, and the Showtime Lakers was showing up legit. They was not like the Knicks, the Pacers, the Magic. All those teams was good teams. They was not great teams. They was not great teams. They was not great teams. They was good teams. Jordan beat good teams, never great teams. He got his ass whooped by the Pistons, man. And if he never went 7, needed 7, then why did he need 7 to beat him the year that they made a breakthrough? And why did he need 7 when they lost the previous year and blamed it on Scottie Pippen migraine? It was 6 other games. Pippen was perfectly fine. What happened to them? He don't need 7, right? It shouldn't have came to a game 7. Pip would have been home resting for that migraine, waiting if that was the case. Come on, man. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Like a spade is still a spade around this motherfucker, man. So let's just be honest. So the mental toughness is one of the things is one of the things that they say, which is not tangible. You can't tell me Michael Jordan is mentally tougher than Kobe. I don't believe you. And it's nothing factual you can say. It's not tangible. And another thing I'm hearing a lot of now, who still got the top selling sneakers? What in the hell do that got to do with basketball? Like let's call a spade a spade. Jordan got more sneakers than any other player ever. Jordan got like 200 pairs of sneakers for one, and for two, he got the dopest sneakers. They look the best, man. His sneakers look better than anybody. If you go from the Jordan 1 all the way to the most current Jordan, it's probably 1,000 Jordans. He got ugly ass shoes too. It's ugly Jordans too. But he makes so many of them, and he got so many that was hot when he was playing. They just retroed them joints. So he is the sneaker king. Like, he got the best shoe brand, and probably the best shoe brand ever. The best looking shoes, the most hot shoes for one player. Of course. What the fuck do they got to do with basketball on the court? What do they got to do with the court, man? It's not tangible. Like, y'all reaching. And the last thing I want to say that I hear about why people feel like Jordan is the GOAT and LeBron ain't, because LeBron flops. Because LeBron flops. This is the most nonsense I've ever heard in my life. So Jordan is a better player on the basketball court because LeBron flops. Okay. So let me ask you this. If that's the case, so what about all the great players from the 80s and the early 90s that didn't flop? Are they better than LeBron too? If they great and then flop? No? Okay, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. It's the era we in. They flopped. I hate that shit too. The NBA changed the league. The refs blow the whistle more. You hear that too. It's a different time, man. Like, the fact that the refs changed the game up and they called more fouls and the league went more offensive ain't got nothing to do with LeBron, nothing to do with Jordan, nothing. Because if you correct me while I'm wrong, they went from a change from the 80s to the 90s. They used to allow people to be super physical in the 80s, and people were scared to come through the lane. When that was the toughest time with the most great teams out there. The 80s was the best era in the NBA ever as far as the best team. They had three. When you look at the top 10 teams ever in NBA history, in the history of the NBA. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go one step further. When you look at the top 5 NBA championship teams ever, my top 5 is gonna be the Bulls team. I can't say whether it was the first three-peat or the second three-peat, because they was pretty dominant for both of them, and the competition was not up to par, either one of them. So it was the Bulls team. You could do either team, the 90, 98, 90, 93 team, whichever one you want to do. That Bulls team with MJ and Pippen. The Detroit Pistons Bad Boys. The Boston Celtics from the 80s. The Showtime Lakers from the 80s. And the 2017 Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, which I don't think nobody would have beat them bitches. Now, if you would have put the 2017 Golden State Warriors, I still don't know if nobody would beat them. I was going to say if you put them in the 80s, where they used to do the rough-ass fouls and shit, but even with that, like KD, Steph, and Clay, they don't need to do a lot of driving in and slashing like Jordan used to do, or even like LeBron would need to do. Like, them dudes is assassins, man, so they could have still got shit popping from distance, mid-ranging, man. So, but I think that 2017 Golden State Warriors team was the best team ever. Like, I don't think nobody could beat them. If you put them on a neutral court and you put everybody and you made the rules, kind of make a rule, a mixture of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s to where it's kind of fair. So I think that would be more like the late 90s type of situation. Make it like a late 90s type of situation where you can't kill motherfuckers, you can't tackle them, but at the same time, they ain't calling little ticky-tack bullshit ass fouls either. I think the Warriors is the best team that ever laced them shits up from that perspective. I don't think nobody would be able to beat them. It's an opinion, that's just an opinion. But the Warriors is my 5 teams. So we got the Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen Bulls. We got the Showtime Lakers from the 80s. We got the Boston Celtics from the 80s. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. We got the Boston Celtics from the 80s. You got the Detroit Pistons from the 80s. And you got the 2017 Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant that joined them boys. Them is my 5 best teams ever. And listen, I'm a Laker fan. So forgive me, Shaq and Kobe. Like, forgive me, Shaq and Kobe, because that was one of the best. If you did a top 10, that team would be up there, as well as the San Antonio, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker team would be up there too in the top 10. Just not the top 5. They just missing. Them two teams might be 6 and 7 out this motherfucker. Like, in my opinion, that's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? So them two teams could very well be 6 or 7. So them is my top 5 teams ever. Now, what do y'all notice about those top 5 teams? What do y'all notice? It's easy. 3 of them is from the 80s. 3 of those teams are from the 80s. The 80s is the best era ever. Ever. Break it down. The Bad Boy Pistons. First of all, Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boy Pistons got a winning record against Michael Jordan in the playoffs. Period. Got to win a record against him overall, but they got to win a record against him in the playoffs. They also beat the Showtime Lakers, and they beat the Celtics. That's freaking, and they used to spank the Bulls, the championship team Bulls. The year before the Bulls won, the Pistons spanked that ass. And spanked them the year before that too. And the year before that. But I digress. That's why the Pistons is one of my top 5 teams. The Celtics. The Celtics had Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, John Havlicek. Like, bruh, that's 4 Hall of Famers. Like, do y'all know Kevin McHale was looked at as the best power forward to ever play the game? And it wasn't even a discussion before you got the Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki. Now you got Giannis. But prior to that, it was Kevin McHale hands down. Even Charles Barkley said that was the best power forward he ever played against around that time. So it was Kevin McHale was the best power forward, and that's saying a lot. There was some really good power forwards out there. So, and you got Robert Parrish, the general. You couldn't stop him. You could not stop Robert Parrish. That bitch about 6'11", 7 feet. That bitch had that run and jump hook shot, that turnaround hook. That bitch could rebound. He played defense. He guarded the rim, and he was super consistent. Super consistent. And we already know what Larry Bird was, the great white hope, top 10 all time, top 5 arguably in some people's opinion. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we already know what Larry Bird was. And their coach was Red Auerbach. This is one of the greatest coaches ever. He right there with Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich. It's Red Auerbach. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I got the Celtics in that joint. And the Showtime Lakers. Do I even need to see it? When Magic first got to the Lakers, they had Kareem, man. Like, do I even need to explain the Showtime Lakers with Kareem, Magic, James Worthy, Perkins, Cooper, Green, Byron Scott? Them bitches was loaded. That Showtime era, bro. That Showtime era, man. Them bitches was loaded, bro. So that's why I got the 3 teams from the 80s in there. I told you why I think Golden State probably the best team all time. And then the Bulls with Jordan, it's Jordan. You know what I'm saying? He was the GOAT to me. He always was the GOAT to me. The whole 90s I was watching, the early 2000s, he was always the GOAT to me. So, until LeBron came. You feel me? So, that's my top 5 teams, championship teams all time. And I guarantee you, if you get a professional to do their top 5 list, I guarantee you those 3 teams is going to be in their top 5 list. And if not, it's hard for me to figure it. If not, it's definitely on their top 10. But it's hard for me to see you leaving the Bad Boy Pistons, the 80 Celtics, and the Showtime Lakers off your top 5 championship teams all time. It's impossible. It's hard for me to see it. Somebody was calling me. It's hard for me to see it. You know what I'm talking about? So that I said that to say that Jordan, that's why Jordan never won in the 80s. And that's why Isaiah Thomas deserves a ton of credit, because he was still winning in the 80s, man. He beat the Showtime Lakers and the Celtics, man. The same Celtics that Jordan could not get a game on. That's what be killing me, man. When you hear these people, I heard Stephen A. when Kevin Durant after LeBron James beat the 73 win. No, let me start the year before. After Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love got hurt, he took the Warriors 6 games with Dellavedova being the second best player. The next year, the Warriors win 73 games. They only lose 9 games. They beat the Bulls record of 72-10. They went 73-9. And LeBron smoked them niggas. Came back from 3-1 and smoked them, man. Smoked them, bro. And they would get, he had to put some work in. They were getting splashed, man. Losing 3-1. Kyrie, Kevin Love, Cleveland first championship, man. First championship. So and that was after he played against Oklahoma City in the title game and destroyed KD. Like, KD did not want no smoke. You seen what happened when they tried to put KD on him. Foul trouble or beasted in the paint, man. So what did KD and Steph Curry do after both getting their ass whooped by LeBron James? And a healthy LeBron James team, them bitches join forces, man. They join forces. So when people say this, LeBron never stopped nobody from winning championships. Jordan stopped people from winning championships. No, LeBron was people thought they could beat Jordan. They was wrong. LeBron was so fucking tough to match up. Them niggas had to go team up with each other. KD, Steph Curry, they were supposed to be 2 of the top 5 players in the NBA. They had to team up with each other. And I understand what people gonna say. Well, LeBron did the same thing to Miami. False. First of all, the first thing that y'all can do is stop making it seem like LeBron was the one that started the big 3. Like, can we please cut that shit out? The Celtics had a big 3, and I just named them earlier. The Lakers had a big 3, and I just named them earlier. And Jordan had a big 3 before LeBron. And people want to say, well, they drafted this player, they drafted blase. They ain't drafted Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was Jordan's rival. He was with the Pistons, man, the bad boy Pistons. They went and got Dennis Rodman, one of the greatest, if not the greatest defender of all time, and the greatest rebounder of all time at 6'6". They went and got Dennis Rodman. That's a big 3, my friends. 3 Hall of Famers. It's a big 3. Yeah, 3 Hall of Famers. But let's dig a little bit deeper into this shit. Because if memory serves me right, when Gary Payton didn't have a championship and Karl Malone didn't have a championship towards the end of their careers, what did they do? They came and joined my Lakers with Kobe and Shaq to try to get them a chip. Never heard anything. All you hear people saying is that they was old. Okay, that's cool. They was old. But they got busy the year before. Look at Karl Malone the year before he left Utah and came to LA. 26 points a game. Look at Gary Payton the year before he left the Supersonics and came to us. 20 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, that typical GP, you know what I'm saying? Stat line, you know what I'm talking about? That typical jump. And they came to us and we got our ass whooped. But they came thinking that it was going to be a different thing. Let's move forward, because I'm just doing everything in steps. Let's move forward. The Boston Celtics. Now, you can't make no, because that's what they say. Well, they got these things in the draft. The Boston Celtics had Paul Pierce. They drafted him. Paul Pierce was averaging 26 points a game. I'm talking about the year before the Celtics came together. Paul Pierce was averaging 26 points a game. Ray Allen was averaging 22 points a game before he came with the Bucks. And Kevin Garnett was averaging 25 and fucking 14 before he came. Paul Pierce, the only one got drafted though. They put that team together. They put it together, man. So nobody said nothing when they did that big 3. Oh, they was negative. They was up in age, no doubt about that. But they was put it like that. They was much younger than what LeBron is now. LeBron's still getting busy. Everybody don't age the same. You know what I'm talking about? So look at LeBron, 37, compared to any other player that ever played in the NBA, 37. It's not the same. And them guys was in their early 30s. So, Nobody, like, ain't nobody hearing about no super team or none of that. Then they put that team together. Not only did they put that team together, they had a 3-year span. They went to 2 finals out of those 3 years. The only reason they didn't, and they played the Lakers those 2 times, because Kobe went to 3 straight finals. The only reason they didn't play the Lakers, that was the year that the Lakers played the Magic with Dwight Howard. The only reason that they didn't play the Lakers that year and come out of the East again is because KG was hurt. That's the only reason. That they would have been 3 straight finals appearances, man. And they spanked us that first one. Y'all remember how that shit went. So 3 straight finals appearances from that big 3 that got put together. You know what I'm talking about? So it's no way around none of that. So move forward. Now you got to compare the Celtics to what LeBron did with Miami. You can't compare the Warriors to what LeBron did. Like the year before, Wade was the only one on that team. Chris Bosh wasn't on that team the year before. LeBron. So when LeBron came, it was a team that was not established. Nobody knew what they was gonna do. Like nobody had no idea, which is part of the reason that they got their ass spanked that first year. They didn't have the chemistry, and I ain't even gonna sit here and cap for you. That's the difference between the LeBron and Kobe fans versus the Michael Jordan fans. Y'all delusional. I ain't gonna sit here and cap for you. They lost. There was a few reasons they lost, but they didn't have the continuity. They hadn't played together. But the main reason that they lost is because LeBron fucking folded in that series, my nigga. Yeah, he my GOAT, but he folded in that series. And I ain't even about to sit here and cap. I ain't about to sit here and tell you no lies. I ain't about to do what Jordan fans do and act like LeBron shit at goal. Like, nah, that's a lot of the continuity that when they first year playing together. But LeBron not being LeBron in that series is the reason why, is the biggest reason why they lost. There's a couple of reasons, but that's the biggest reason why they lost. You know what I'm talking about? So if you look at the Heat before LeBron was put on that team, that's what you got to analyze, because I'm about to do the same thing with Golden State Warriors. Let's analyze them before KD was put on that team. Previous year, like I've been saying. What did they do the previous year? Golden State had been the best team in the NBA those previous 2 years, bro. Even when LeBron beat them, Golden State still was the best team that year. Like, LeBron ended up doing some superhuman shit, but Golden State was better than Cleveland, bro. They won 73 games after winning the chip. The same squad, bro. Same squad. You win the chip, you bring back the same squad, you go 73-9, and you lose in 7 in the finals to LeBron. That team is established. It's the best team. They might would have won the next year, period, anyway, because they was that good. And KD joined that team, an already established team? Really? Stop. That was beyond a super team. They already had 3 Hall of Famers already up there. They added 4. And not only did they add 4, it was, at that point in time, it's who the best player in the NBA? It's a 2-man question. It's LeBron. For the most part, a majority of people saying LeBron, but it's LeBron and KD. It's a 2-man race, 2-man question. Don't nobody want to hear nothing about Steph. Like Steph was never on the level with KD and LeBron. Like, stop it, man. Cut it out, bro. Cut it out. It's never on the level with them two. It was a 2-man question, man. It was them two. So the first or second best player went and joined the best team in the NBA the previous 2 years. They teamed up against LeBron, bro. So when you saying that these players, Jordan stopped people from winning championships, LeBron never did. No, LeBron made motherfuckers team up to beat him. And when I say people, I'm talking about 2 top 5 players. I'm talking about somebody that's either 1 or 2 in the league. At that point in time, Skip and Stephen A were calling Durant the best player in the league. So the best player in the league went and joined the best team in the league. They had been to 2 straight finals. Not even close to comparable to what happened. Not even fucking close. And now we move forward without KD, 7 years ahead. They got the same nucleus, but a different team. They got the same nucleus and the same coach. And when I say the same nucleus, Clay, Steph, Draymond, Steve Kerr, same nucleus. Same thing with the Bulls from the early championships to the third one, even though Dennis Rodman did add to that substantially. But they did have Pippen, Jordan, and Phil Jackson. So it's the same dynamics to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? And with that same dynamic, they right back in the top two in the East this year, battling Phoenix. I mean, injuries have happened. You had Clay with the injury, you had Draymond with the injury, Steph injured now, which is the only reason they falling. But that same dynamic came out in ball because of the type of culture and the team that they have, man. And it's the main hitters, the three guys that I named with the coach. So they right back to that shit now. But KD and them, they joined that team because they knew it wasn't no way in hell they were gonna beat LeBron if they ain't do that. Like it wasn't gonna happen. I mean, it could have happened with Steph if they wouldn't have done it. I ain't even gonna lie. Golden State could have beat Cleveland that next year. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility because they was up 3-1 on them the previous year. So Golden State definitely could have came back and beat Cleveland without Durant. But Durant and Curry didn't want to find out what life would be like playing against LeBron mano a mano. Nah, they joined forces, man. There wasn't nobody going to beat that Golden State Warrior team. But I did hear Stephen A. say a couple of times that, well, LeBron is the best player in the league. You figure it out. You should be able to figure it out. Like, you know what I'm saying? You hear people saying that. But y'all ain't tell Jordan that in the 80s when he had to play against the Celtics, Pistons, and Showtime Lakers. Could never tell. You ain't never tell Jordan that in the 80s when he played against, when he played Larry Bird and didn't even win a game. He got swept every time they faced the Celtics. Never won a game. So you gonna tell me that LeBron should beat those 4 Hall of Famers over there, and you gonna tell me, figure it out, you the best player, get it done? You didn't say that to Jordan. Like, and please don't hit me with and they like to say this too, Jordan was a baby. He was learning how to win. He didn't know how to win at that time. Jordan won his first chip like his 7th or 8th year. The same time span LeBron won his first chip. The same time span LeBron won his first chip. And to add that, because when everybody go in on LeBron, then nobody say he hadn't learned how to win yet, because he hadn't won no chip when Dallas done beat him. He hadn't won no chip yet. So then nobody say that about him. They said, you got your ass whooped and you should have figured it out. Should have carried your team to a victory. That's what they said. So why y'all don't say that about Jordan? Why y'all don't say that about Jordan when he was getting his ass whipped by the Celtics? He got swept. He didn't even win one game. You never said it then. He played against the Pistons. The year before, they won their first chip when Max made the excuse that Scottie Pippen had a headache. Y'all said Jordan didn't never need 7 games. So why did that game 7 headache got anything to do with it? Okay, let's flip that script. The year before, they lost to the Pistons in 7. Oh, no, excuse me. They lost to the Pistons in 7 the year before they won the chip. The year before that, they didn't take the Pistons 7. Like, the Pistons was whooping their motherfucking ass, man. So nobody never say that about Jordan. You should have figured it out. You the best player. He was the best player then. Nobody never said that. So, and we kind of get it, man. We get the narrative of the whole situation, man. Like we understand the narrative that Jordan fans and Jordan groupies is making. You know what I'm saying? So, me personally, I ain't a groupie or no player. I just can't be like that. But Kobe Bryant is my favorite. I'm a Kobe Bryant fanatic. Kobe Bryant was my favorite player all time in any sports, man. So I just feel like LeBron is the GOAT. You feel me? So when they make these excuses up for Jordan and talk about he stopped players from winning championships, he ain't stopped Isaiah Thomas. He ain't stopped Larry Bird. He ain't stopped Magic Johnson. I know y'all say, well, he beat Magic Johnson the one year. Yeah, that wasn't the Showtime Lakers. And in the 80s, he could never even get to Magic Johnson. He could never get out of the East in order to do any of that shit. He could never get out of the East. So when y'all be talking about that, figure it out, you the best player, y'all say that to LeBron, that's nonsense, man, because Jordan didn't figure it out. And to piggyback off of that statement, my question to y'all would be, all the Michael Jordan groupies, can y'all name me one team that Michael Jordan played, that the Bulls played any of his championship seasons? That's 6 seasons I'm giving you. 6 seasons. Can y'all name me one team that the Bulls beat that they were better than? Like going into the series, y'all felt like the Bulls was better than that team was better than the Bulls. Give me one team in his finals run that y'all felt like the Bulls was better than that team when he was winning chips, man. The 91 Lakers with Vlade Divac, not Showtime. Vlade Divac. Was that team better than the Bulls? No. And I'm about to run it down to you. I'm a basketball historian. I don't need no stat sheets or none of that. I'm about to run it all down to you, man. That was the first one, the Lakers. The second year, he played Portland. Was that Portland team better with Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Duckworth, Buck Williams? If you look at them damn power forwards and them guys, man, and try to compare them to some of the power forwards like the Giannis's, the Anthony Davis, the Tim Duncans, the Kevin Garnett's, the Dirk Nowitzki's, all the players that LeBron had to play against, basically. Man, like, stop it, man. But okay, let's move on. Went against the Blazers that second year. Was the Blazers better than the Bulls? No, I don't think so. That's two. He went against the Phoenix Suns that third year. The Phoenix Suns was the overall number 1 seed with Charles Barkley. He left Philly, went to Phoenix. Charles Barkley was the best player. That team even had the Bulls up 2-0. And the Bulls beat them 4 straight. Was that team better than the Bulls? Hell no. Matter of fact, for anybody that got anything to say about that team, any type of greatness, man, they had one great player, one really good player, and a bunch of other good role players. The one great player was Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was fucking great and unstoppable at that time. That's how they got the number 1 seed. That was incredible. Kevin Johnson was not a great point guard. He was a good point guard. Even if you want to say really good, okay, that's fine. He was a really good point guard. Like, you know what I'm saying? He was not a great point guard at that time. He was not Magic. He was not Isaiah. Like, he wasn't even Tim Hardaway. You know what I'm saying? He was a good point guard. He wasn't great. So, but after that, after Charles Barkley and Kevin Johnson, the point guard, it started getting ugly. Dan Marley, who was an incredible three-point shooter, but that's it. That's it. Danny Ainge, who was a solid defender in the 80s in his younger days, but he was not the same Danny Ainge when he played for the Saints. He could still shoot the fucking lights out, but he was not the same Danny Ainge, the same defender. And even if you go back to Danny Ainge in his primes, he was not a great player. He was a good player. He was not great. He does not deserve to be mentioned with any of these guys that I'm mentioning. So you had Danny Ainge, you had Bob Marley, you had what was the center? His last name was West. He was okay. He was like a Bill Cartwright of the West. Like, he was not great by any stretch of the imagination. Like, that was their squad, bro. They was not a great team at all. You know what I'm saying? They had one great player surrounded by some people. That's the first 3 chips, y'all. The first 3 chips. None of them teams was better than Jordan. Not even fucking close. Nobody felt like those teams was going to win going into that series. None of them. The only one that people even felt close to feeling like they were going to win was the Lakers. And the only 2 reasons for that is, one, because we had history. We were still trying to hold on to Showtime, but that shit was gone. That was our last run. Go look at our record in that season. We wasn't even supposed to be in the finals that year. We weren't the number 1 seed. Like, we used to get our ass whooped that year. We shouldn't have been in the finals. Something clicked in the playoffs. And Magic kind of carried us to that shit. But we was not the Showtime Lakers. So, and plus the Bulls hadn't even won a chip yet. So they didn't, but the Bulls still, I don't know if they was the favorites or not going in, but I do know that my Lakers, we was not like that year. I just seen an interview with Magic talking about how we wasn't even supposed to be there. He kind of carried the team and that was our last leg. So, none of the teams, nobody thought that they was going to beat the Bulls. But that's the first 3. Jordan retires after his third one in 93. 94, 95, the Houston Rockets won. Everybody say Jordan would have won 8. It's a fucking lie. He would not have won 8 straight. He came back the next 3, in my opinion. It's your opinion, maybe he would have. My opinion, hell no, he wouldn't have won no 8 straight. So, Jordan leaves. Jordan comes back. So now, before I even go to the third group of championships, we're going to stop and talk about this because it's another pass that Jordan was given that's bullshit. Jordan retired. He decided he wanted to come back. That treat him just like y'all treat LeBron and every other player, hold him accountable. That was your decision to retire. That was your decision to retire, bro. So don't nobody want to hear nothing about he got to get his back into the game flow and all. He should have did that before he started. Don't nobody want to hear that. But let's move a step past that, though. Let's go a step past that, though. Let's just say, all right, somebody pulled up. I ain't know who it was, so I got thrown off. I'm doing this video outside from the garage. But let's just say, okay, you grant them that for the sake of the conversation. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right, I'll let you know. All right, I appreciate it. I'm doing a video right now, though, but I appreciate it. Dawson's Lawn Care Services. Let me give him a little plug right quick, man. If you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, they do good work. Give that man a call for lawn care. Dawson's Lawn Care. Throw that up there right there. I ain't just walked up on me. I'm just showing love to somebody just trying to come up with their business. But anyway, back to where I was before I was distracted. But okay, let's say we give y'all the first year when Jordan came. I'm not giving you the first year. We're gonna talk about when he first came back. By the time that year ended, because I don't know if y'all remember, but Shaq and Penny was together. Orlando Magic was like nice then. By the time that season ended, Jordan was back to being Jordan. Look at his season, the end of that season, his numbers, statistics, all that shit. Go look at it. He was the same Jordan. It's the identical statistics, bro. Same Jordan. The difference is they didn't have Rodman then. So they went against Orlando. They got their ass whooped. I think they got swept. Did they get swept? I think they got swept. I really think that they got swept. So, and then Orlando ended up going and getting their ass swept. So Orlando, I know people, they won 60-some games. Orlando was like one of those good up-and-coming teams. Because you got a lot of Dallas and Sacramento teams that Kobe used to play against that always had 60 wins, but they never even sniffed the finals. Conference finals was as far as those guys went. So I understand the Penny and Shaq team that they say they was 61. Now, they fucking beat the shit out of the Bulls, man. Now, Michael Jordan, they say Michael Jordan went in the offseason, he got focused, he did this, blase, blase, blase. No, that ain't what the fuck it was. Michael Jordan came back the next year and did the same thing statistically he did that year, at least from the halfway point to the end. You could tell he needed to get his shit back when he first came, but that shit took about 10 games and he was back to being Jordan. So the back half, he was Jordan, same statistics, same everything. He come back the next year, everybody saying, well, he came back, he refused to lose, blase, blase, blase. No, they got Dennis Rodman is what happened. They got Dennis Rodman. That same Bulls team, no Dennis Rodman, man, the Jazz would have fucked them up. They wouldn't have had nobody for Karl Malone. The Jazz would have fucked them up, man. Anyway, so I just wanted to put that in context because Jordan got his ass whooped and y'all give him a pass because he retired and came back. Nobody forced him to retire. It wasn't an injury. That was his choice. He decided when he came back, he should have knew how to work on himself. You don't get a pass for that for retiring, bro. That was a decision you made, and it wasn't based off of physical shit. Like, it wasn't based off of your physical attributes. So you don't get a pass from that. You lost and you got swept without Dennis Rodman. You got Dennis Rodman back the next year, and you swept them. Because Dennis Rodman, rebounding and defense, insane. Dennis Rodman is that guy. You feel me? So they got Dennis Rodman back, and they swept the Magic, which is cool. The Magic got swept. They got swept by Houston, like the same year that they swept the Bulls. So that's telling you that the Magic weren't on that type of level like that. They were just good enough to beat the Bulls without Dennis Rodman, because the Bulls wasn't like that without Dennis Rodman. Like, if they would have came back that next year without Dennis Rodman, they would have got their ass whooped, and Shaq would have dominated the fucking paint, man. So I'm not giving them a pass for that, but I'm putting that in perspective though, because Jordan fans give them a pass. You ain't getting one from me. So that is that part. So let's get back to where I was at, talking about the teams that he played, and did Jordan play any teams? Did he beat any teams that was better than him? Like the Magic, when they didn't have Dennis Rodman, they was probably better than the Bulls. No Dennis Rodman, the Magic was probably better than the Bulls, and they swept them. So back to what I was saying, Jordan beating teams that's better than him, or that people feel like is better than him going into the series. So that he retired, he came back, he got splashed by Magic. He came back, he swept them, and then he played the Supersonics. He played the Supersonics, and that was the only year the Supersonics got there. Like, he played the Supersonics, but nobody thought that the Supersonics was gonna beat them. As much as I like Sean Kemp used to come through and dunk on niggas. As much as I love Gary Payton, the glove, like, they just was not. Even Detlef Schrempf. I don't know if y'all remember Detlef Schrempf. If you historians of the game, Detlef Schrempf was the truth. Was the truth. He was a foreigner, white guy. He had that down flat top cut like Ivan Drago on Rocky, like Drago. You know what I'm saying? He had that type of cut like that. And Detlef Schrempf was the fucking truth, man. He wasn't a great player. He was a really good player, one of them guys. You know what I'm saying? Them guys you need on your team. He didn't play like Lamar Odom, but I could compare him to a Lamar Odom with the Kobe team when we won our 2 chips out of them 3 years. Like how essential Lamar Odom was not a great player, but he was really good and we needed him. He was essential. He brought a lot that we needed from him. That's how Detlef Schrempf was. But nobody thought that the Supersonics was gonna win that series, man. Like, nobody thought that shit, bro. And the next 2 years was the Utah Jazz. Like, come on, bro. Like, come on. Man, I look at the Utah Jazz. If you put the Utah Jazz up against some of these newer teams from this day, like you put them up against the Tim Duncan San Antonio Spurs, you put them up against Kevin Durant Golden State Warriors, you put them up against LeBron and the Heat. Man, them teams will beat the shit out of the Utah Jazz. Nigga, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Did you see the Utah Jazz team? It was a perfect time for them. They would have put that same team in the 80s. They would have got splashed. It ain't no way in fucking hell. And they didn't. John Stockton and Karl Malone was there in the 80s. Them bitches weren't coming out them bitches was not coming out of no motherfucking West in no 80s. You out of your damn mind. But look at them in the 90s when they were older. Karl Malone was a great player. I think John Stockton was a great point guard. But go back and look at these guys now, man. Like, as good as John Stockton was as a point guard, John Stockton averaged like 11 points. He averaged like 13 assists, but he averaged 11 points a game. He averaged 11 points a game, bruh. He averaged 11 points a game, man. And that's his second best player. 13, 14 assists, yes. Then you had Jeff Hornacek, who shot the lights out. Yes, he could shoot, but he was a fucking 6'3", 6'4", 2 guard that was not athletic at all. Then they had players like Shannon Anderson. I can't remember Carr's first name, but he was Carr. He had the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar glasses. They had Russell. I can't even remember his first name. Might have been Byron Russell. I can't remember his first name because he was not good. He was okay. He was supposed to be the guy that was defending Jordan. But a lot of times they had Hornacek, Russell on them, or Shannon Anderson. And none of them guys, neither one of them guys could do no 360 dunk. And when I say that, I mean that they ain't athletic at all. And defensively, Russell was a pretty good defender, not great. He was a pretty good defender. He was not a great defender. He was like 6'7", a little bit on the slower side because he was heavier than Jordan. So he was not a great defender. He was solid. So that's who guarded Jordan for the next 2 chips. But who thought that Utah was better than the Bulls? Nobody. So basically what you're telling me is Jordan never beat one team during his championship run that anybody thought was better than the Bulls. He never beat any teams that was better than him. And I know what y'all trying to say. Well, he was Jordan. He was just that good and ain't no teams better than him. Why wasn't that the same case in the 80s? If Jordan was the sole reason as to why none of these teams was better, why that wasn't the case in the 80s? The bitch couldn't get a game against Larry Bird. Detroit Pistons and Isaiah Thomas got a winning record against that nigga. They splashed him on different occasions, man. He couldn't even never make it to the Showtime Lakers when they was actually Showtime. He finally got to him in the 90s when the Celtics was done, the Pistons was done. No more conference finals for when Jordan beat them in the conference finals, when he won his first chip. They like to say that the Pistons still was this and that. The Pistons never made it to another conference finals. Like I got to go back and look. I don't even know if they ever won 50 games again. So when I research how good the team was, I don't go by if they lost to Jordan or not, because they be trying to make it seem like they was great even though they lost to Jordan. I go by what they was doing that year against good competition and comparatively to the other years when they was great. What was their record like? How was they against good teams? How did they look throughout the playoffs? Was it just straight domination like it was the previous 3 or 4 years, or was it a struggle? Was they right there in the conference finals after that for the next 3 or 4 years playing the Bulls, and was the Bulls beating them then to say that this is the same caliber team every year they're in the conference finals and we beating them? No and no. The Celtics was gone. The Pistons never returned to a shape of their old self. And let's take the Bulls and Jordan out of the equation. I'm talking about in terms of record and against the rest of the league in the terms of them in the playoffs. It was not the same sachet. It was not the same team it wasn't the same. Like, go back and look. It was not the same. So, can y'all name me one team that Jordan beat that was a better team than the Bulls? I'm going to stop waiting because I'll be waiting forever for that shit. No, you cannot do it. You can't. Now, let's flip that same shit over to LeBron. And let's look at, and you ask yourself, along the path of him winning his championships, was it any teams that he beat that was clearly better than them? Okay. Let's start with his first, not his first chip, his first finals appearance. The Detroit Pistons. The same Pistons that beat the Lakers. The same Pistons that was number 1 in the East. The same Pistons that was in the conference finals. The same Pistons that took the Spurs 7 games the previous year. That Pistons team that was better than Cleveland. The team that when he scored 47 points, like 27, 28 straight and shit, and they beat the Pistons, and they ended up losing to San Antonio because San Antonio was way over their fucking head. Way over their head. Kind of like the Celtics was for fucking Jordan. So he beat the Pistons. The Pistons was clearly a better team, and they had a chip, and they had been to 2 straight finals, 3 straight conference finals. He beat the Pistons. We know that the Pistons was better. Okay, let's move forward. Let's move forward to Miami. He loses to Dallas, and he did have that choke experience where he didn't handle his business against Dallas. So then he goes on to beat Oklahoma City. Now, Oklahoma City was babies, so I ain't gonna say that they was better than Miami. Miami hadn't won no chip yet either, so let's keep perspective about this motherfucker. But not with that team. D-Wade won one in 2006, but this 2011 to 2014 though, so this a whole different. You know what I'm saying? So. He had, was it 2010 through 13, something like that era. So they lose to the Mavericks. And they end up beating OKC, and then which had 3 Hall of Famers on that motherfucker. James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant. But I'm not even going to use that as a point of emphasis because they was babies, even though that was a fucking great team. They beat the Spurs that year. The Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker Spurs. And you know about them. That team was the fucking business, nigga. So he beat OKC the first year. It counted as a chip, but that team wasn't better than his team. Okay. The next year he played the Spurs. And they beat the Spurs. The Spurs was better than them, bro, because they played the Spurs again the next year, and the Spurs stomped them, man. Stomped them. And let's put this in context, because I know some people want to say, well, the Spurs, Jordan never got stomped like that. Yes, he did. First of all, he got stomped out by the Celtics and by the Pistons. And San Antonio was a fucking great team. I'm gonna bring up 2 points right now to where people using that against LeBron legacy, and I'm gonna just bring them 2 points up to crush that shit, man. First of all, San Antonio was a better team than Miami. Like this is not a matter of opinion. This is, and don't start name dropping. I'm talking about a better team, not who got better individual players. I'm talking about a better team. They was a much better team than Miami, which is why Miami struggled to beat them the first time they beat them, and they got splashed the second time. And let me offer some context for these for some of these folks. That's the same Spurs team. That's the same Spurs team that they beat. That's the same Spurs team that also beat the Big Four. And they beat the Big Four, I ain't gonna say when it mattered, because Dirk don't matter, but they beat the Big Four when it was stand-up time, because LeBron, after he lost to Dirk, they won 2 in a row. So that team was already up and running then. Like, Dirk beat the team their first year before they even got established with each other. So credit to Dirk, but that's when he beat him. Tim Duncan beat them the 4th year when they was the most established that they were. So let me put this in context for people that don't understand what San Antonio and who San Antonio was. Tim Duncan got 5 chips. Tim Duncan beat that Heat team. The Heat team, LeBron, D-Wade Heat team. He lost one to him, but he beat him. Tim Duncan beat that Detroit Pistons team that splashed the Lakers. He beat them. Tim Duncan was the only person that was responsible for beating Kobe and Shaq Lakers more than once. The only team that was responsible for beating us more than once. The only team, bruh. And that was a fucking great team. And let me tell you how great they was. They beat us with that team with Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan, but they added Kawhi Leonard. So it's the same team, but with Kawhi Leonard up there. And he got Finals MVP the year that they beat them because he held LeBron to 29 points a game, bro. Or 50% shooting. That nigga's so great. You hold that nigga to 29 a game and 50% shooting, you getting the MVP. Because Kawhi averaged 16 points a game that series or some shit. It was not the same Kawhi that was with the Raptors, man. But they added Kawhi to that same team that used to, and the Spurs used to give us hell, nigga. Hell. And that's why I say, this how I measure great teams. And that's why Jordan didn't play any great teams in the 90s. This is how I measure great teams. Even if you don't win, let's just say it's multiple great teams in a particular year. Only one great team will win. That don't mean that other teams ain't great. The way I measure teams being great and whether they got a great, I don't want to say program because that sounds to organization. Whether they got a great organization going and a great core, I measure by, like, if you got a team, perfect example. We had Lakers and Shaq, Kobe and Shaq Lakers. We won 3 in a row with them. So what I would ask myself is, we know that we was a great team, but San Antonio was a great team as well. And the way San Antonio was a great team is San Antonio won a chip in 99 before we won ours in 2000. We won 3 in a row. San Antonio came back and beat us in 2003. So they can't, like, San Antonio came back after they won in 99, they had David Robinson in. David Robinson retired. They came back and beat us in 2003 and splashed. I think they beat us 4-2 or something, man. That was the first time I seen anybody get Kobe and Shaq the fucking business like that, nigga. The Pistons gave us the business in the finals later on, but that was after the Spurs had already did it. They were the first team that did it. Everybody's eyes was like that when the Spurs down beat us, bro. Because that shit was a tough pill to swallow, man, 2003 when they whooped our ass like that, man. But that's how I measure a good team, man. I measure a good team because I ask, God damn, I've been on this bitch. I measure a good team because I ask questions like, okay, they played against the Lakers and lost. The Spurs did. But what did they do before that? They went to a chip. What did they do after that? They went to a chip. The years that we won, where was they at? They were playing us in the conference finals. They was in the conference finals just about every year when we was there. Then we end up beating them. They beat us in 2003. We end up coming back, beating them in 2004. We splashed them too. Beating them in 2004. And they end up coming back and winning 2005 and 2007. Like, bruh, that's a great team and a great organization because even when they lose to another great team, they still knocking on the door. That's what I say about the teams of the 80s. They was great teams because Isaiah Thomas had to go through the Celtics. He beat the Celtics. The Celtics was winning chips. Isaiah Thomas beat them. Like, and then he had to go play the Showtime Lakers. He beat them. Or when the Celtics was winning, they had to go through the Pistons. They beat them. Then they had to beat the Showtime Lakers. They beat them. Or when the Showtime Lakers in the Western Conference had to try to overcome the Celtics, they beat them. Or what about when they had to play the Pistons? They beat them. They all beat each other, but they always there knocking on the door every chance. One of them three teams was in the mix and was going to beat us. That's great teams to me. Same with the Spurs, bro. Even when if the Lakers didn't come out of the West at that period of time, the Spurs was coming. Even throughout our championship run, they beat us after three-peating. They beat us. And that's the same thing that I felt like Houston would have done to the Bulls, Jordan 3-peat. I felt like Houston would have came in and beat them. Because it's only so long that you can be able to win before some of them teams get that algorithm. And 3 is always the cutoff spot. 3 is always the cutoff spot, man. You ain't seeing nobody winning 4 and 5 in a row, man. It's the cutoff spot. So that's how I decide great teams, man, is what are you doing in the midst of another great team winning? Are you conference finals? Are you right there? Are you winning the year before? Are you winning years after they win chips? Which is why I bring up LeBron's second stint. I'm going to bring up LeBron's second stint of who LeBron had to play. Because keep in mind, when I tell you that the Spurs beat the Lakers, they beat them Pistons teams, and they beat them Heat teams, bruh. They beat the Heat teams, man. So them teams is right there in the mix every single year of it, bruh. In the mix every year. So that's how I depict and look at them as being a great team because you was in the mix. When you look at the Bulls, like, let's look at the Eastern Conference, man. Who was the Bulls playing? It was a different team every year. It wasn't the same team. They weren't playing the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals every year. They played the Knicks. They played the Pacers. They played the Pistons. They played Cleveland. Like, they played a bunch of different teams, man. So it wasn't never the same team. That's how you know those teams wasn't great because they wasn't good enough to consistently every year be there and had to face the Bulls to try to overcome their shit. They was losing to other teams already, and those teams was losing to the Bulls too. Like it wasn't one consistent team there every single year like San Antonio did with us. You know what I'm saying? They weren't like the Lakers and Showtime. They weren't like the Celtics and the Pistons. Fuck no. Even if you talk about Kobe, perfect example, you look at the Lakers and Kobe. Kobe had to deal with Tim Duncan that whole time. And when we finally slayed that dragon in 2009, we finally slayed that 2008, excuse me. We finally slayed that dragon and we beat them 4-1. That was the first time we had our way with them. And we felt like we was on our way. We beat them 4-1 in the Western Conference Finals. They still in the Western Conference Finals, nigga. 10, 15 years later, still in it, 10 years at least. So what happens after that? The Boston Celtics make that trade, and then what happened? 3 years in a row, the Boston Celtics, the best team in the East, they come out of the East. They missed that 1 year because KG was hurt. But that's what I'm saying about great teams. That Boston Celtics team was a great team. They won the championship that first year. The Lakers came back and won the second year, and then they came back and won the third year. So that's a sign of a great team. That's the sign of a great team. My bad. That's a sign of a great team. I mean, you gotta put it all in perspective. Like, Kobe had to, after finally getting through San Antonio and Tim Duncan that whole time, Kobe had to go through the Boston Celtics. That's like 3 years in a row. That's a great team, bro. You know it's a great team because even if it's other teams winning championships, you still got to go through that team in order to win. That's how you know it's a great team, bro. Great teams can lose, but they gonna always be right there in the mix. That's how the Celtics was. They was great, but they was always right there in the mix, bro. Like you couldn't just overcome and just beat them like that. The same thing with Golden State. Look at Golden State. They won the championship, came back, lost 3-1 to LeBron, and won, like, what is it, 2 in a row? Like, that's a great team. Like 4 or 5 years, it's a great team. Same thing with Miami. Miami went to 4 straight finals. They won 2. They played against San Antonio. They beat them once and they lost once. That's a great team, bro. That's a sign of a great team, because you know you always got to deal with them. So that's something that we didn't really see a whole bunch from Jordan, man. He wasn't playing against teams that was great year in and year out, man, because it was a different team every year. In the 80s he was. That's why he always got his ass whooped. He never beat the Pistons, Celtics. He couldn't beat none of them in the 80s. The Showtime Lakers, he started winning in the 90s when them teams moved on, retired, and got old. And who was he beating? The Utah Jazz, the San Antonio Supersonics, the Portland Trail Blazers. I ain't saying these weren't good teams, but they weren't great teams. Because when Jordan left and retired, where was them teams at? They couldn't even get to a finals, man. When Jordan retired, it was 2 different teams from the East that got to the finals. The Knicks did it one year, Orlando did it the next year. If either one of those teams was great, soon as Jordan left, one of them teams would have won the chip. They still couldn't win even after Jordan left. They wasn't great teams, bro. They was really good teams with good records. It's a lot of those, man. Kobe used to go against them all the time. Sacramento used to win 60-plus games. Dallas Mavericks used to win 60-plus games. It's the same thing LeBron, whether it's dealing with Oklahoma City when they had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. They was winning 55, 60-plus games. We know what San Antonio was doing with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Greg Popovich. We know what they were doing. Like, shit, they beat L.A. when they had Kobe and Shaq. That's a great team. We won 3 in a row, and San Antonio came right back after our 3rd chip and beat us. That's a great team, man. That's a great team. Boston Celtics won 2 in a row. The Pistons came and beat them with Isaiah Thomas. That's a great team. Like, that's a great team. You got to judge what they're doing other years. You don't got to win a championship every year to be a great team, but you at least need to be in the mix. The team that won the championship need to be the team that knocked you off. That's not how that shit went with Michael Jordan, man. So let's stop creating this narrative like Michael Jordan walked on water and LeBron is not in his class. It's nonsense, man. He bigger, stronger, faster, played much longer, played against better competition, and he played against more athletic people. Even when you look at the people that Jordan played against and had to guard, like, let's go down the list, man. John Starks, he's 6'2" point guard. Like John Hornacek, he's 6'3" shooting guard. Like Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley, even Gary Payton, who was a great defender, was way too short for Jordan. He's a point guard, man. Now let's look at who LeBron had to deal with offensively and who he had to deal with. Carmelo Anthony, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Tim Duncan. Like, come on, man. It's just Kobe Bryant, man. It's not the same. It's just not the same world. It's not the same nothing, man. So when y'all offering perspective, man, I get it to the Jordan groupers. Y'all love Jordan. He could do no wrong, bro. I get it. But if anybody going to be neutral and realistic, and let's not talk about emotions and feelings. Let's talk about actual facts, man. I'm making a video, man. Let's talk about actual facts. The fact is LeBron is bigger, stronger, and faster than Jordan, period. Like, period. LeBron ran a 4.4 coming out of high school, nigga. That's NFL wide receiver speed, man. Bigger, faster, stronger. Fact. He played on a high level for much longer than Jordan. Fact. He's a better passer than Jordan. He's a better rebounder than Jordan. Fact. He's a better leader than Jordan, and he runs the offense better than Jordan. Fact. He played better teams than Jordan. I will say this. If you count in the 80s, then I give Jordan played better teams if you count in the 80s. He never beat none of them teams, though. But if you count the 80s, I give it to Jordan. But this whole time with Jordan, because that's what all people like to ever talk about is the 90s, because that's when he was winning chips. But that run right there, LeBron played better players and better teams. It's not, Jordan did not beat one team that was better than the San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard. He didn't play one team that was good as Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant. He didn't play no teams that was good as none of them teams, bro. Like, look at the people he played against. Look at what AI did to Jordan. AI came in. AI gave Jordan the business every time they played. AI gave him 30. Matter of fact, we can go back and look at a young Afro Kobe with the Lakers giving Jordan 30. A young Kobe giving Jordan 30. What the fuck you think Kobe would have did in his prime against MJ? MJ wouldn't have been able to fuck with him, guard him. Like, y'all always talk about Jordan defense. Jordan had to guard nobody like James Harden, Carmelo Anthony, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade. Like, Jordan had to guard them people. And when he guarded the good people, like, I don't know, Allen Iverson, he got destroyed. Like, come on, man. Let's offer context, man. I got places to be. I got places to go. I just wanted to go ahead and end this. In my opinion, everybody got their own opinion, but it's who is the greatest of all time, who is the GOAT. It's LeBron. It's not Jordan. So all y'all Jordan groupers, just be happy that your man is second greatest of all time. He's second on Mount Rushmore. But LeBron, bigger, stronger, faster, better passer, better rebounder, played for longer at a higher level, longevity, better teammate, better floor general, played against better players, and actually beat teams that was better than his team. Jordan didn't. I'm out.